Thank you. Nothing beats the start of a brand new championship. Everybody reset to zero and the promise of a new start. Hello, everybody, and welcome to RCI Fridays and the International Sprint Series live from Paul Ricard in France. Qualifying just about wrapping up for round number 1. And Jack, welcome in. It's a new day, it's a new championship, and there's new players up and down the field in both classes.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. I am on another Jet 2 holiday, the last one of the season, but it's still a good time to start a new one on a Friday. I'm so excited to be here. I'm excited to be back with RCI Mondays, good old multi-class action, hypercars and GT3s, a super standard format, one we've gotten used to. A few changes that has resulted in it being a new season, rather than the multi-sprint season is gone. The International Sprint Series is here to stay. Like Jesse said, qualifying just coming to an end. Last laps coming in, a lot of in-laps from many of our drivers, but it's sure to be stellar. We know it, we love it. Good old WEC style multi-class.
You said it, partner. Of course, we are at Paul Ricard in France, but it may not be the Paul Ricard that you're the most familiar with. You see, this is not the standard Grand Prix circuit. This is the 1A variant of the circuit, and you saw on the graphic as we came into live pictures that this is 5.7 kilometers, or about 3.6 miles. This track only 13 turns. What does that mean? Well, turns 1 and 2 after the pit straight, they're a little less acute. So you could basically, in a prototype at least, just go through there at full speed. Even side by side, we should see a lot of great action. And of course, no chicane down the Mistral Straight either. Results of qualifying is confirmed, starting with LMGT3. Martin Lawrence on pole position over Roland Hans, and Zach Vermack takes 3rd place over Mike Hoke in 4th. Behind them in 5th, Grim Lilith. Then there's Mark Gibson. Then Kevin Boss, Vulture Rybecki, Ted Edwards, and Mark Ham round out the top 10. Outside of them is Tony Yupp, Jacob Tuckey, Adrian Fraga are the 13 cars that took time at Malcolm, and Kingarogas also are in the race today, it would appear. Jack, on to Hypercar. Take it away.
We just saw him hitting the circuit. They've wrapped up qualifying. Martin Vaselli, a name we are used to seeing on pole position, this time in the Porsche 963. Zenner Van Drescher joins him on the front row in his good old-fashioned BMW V8 hybrid. Fabian Schmidberger in the Cadillac, 3rd in qualifying. Andrea Ursu in 4th. Billy Octane 5th. Reese Wilkinson in 6th. Raphael Huell 7th. Richard Whittle in 8th. Tom Watts making a grand return to RCI and to Hypercar racing to boot. Starts in 9th with Michael DeGore, your top 10. I believe we have a couple more cars in Hypercar. Not sure if any of them will grace us with their presence or if indeed they set valid laps. As things happen at the end of qualifying, our tools go a bit strange. That on your screen is incorrect. Of course, all those names we know are on the grid today. Jesse, you said it about Paul Ricard 1A. It's slowly becoming my favorite layout for Paul Ricard because it is absolute speed. There's very few big braking zones. There are very few times where you're not absolutely flat on the floor with your throttle pedal. Both of these classes can take turns 1 and 2 completely flat out. And if there's a little bit of traffic caught in turns 1 and 2 Hypercar on LMGT3, well, there's going to sure be a bit of excitement and probably some squeals from us in the commentary booth, but that's so much to look forward to. The weather looking absolutely gorgeous here in France, 29 degrees Celsius in the air. I believe track temp is around 40 degrees, so a little bit toasty on track. Might affect tire choices on the grid, Jesse, but pretty standard day, pretty standard start. Everyone looking to get their foot in on a new season. So I expect maybe a little bit of reservation on the race start, but knowing these guys, some of them might go absolutely balls to the wall.
Yeah, I think that's what you're going to see, Jack. I think you're going to see a lot of cars absolutely caning it through turns 1 and 2, because by the time you get to 3 and 4 and the tight end of the racetrack, you've got to have it all settled down, and you worry a lot of times. We saw it the last time we were here racing the 1A circuit. There were a lot of issues in the turn 4, 5, 6 complex. Not so much mostly anywhere else except after maybe the Mistral Straight down and Scene Corner, getting a couple of cars side by side, or sideways, I should say. But most of the car-on-car action actually happened at the northern end of the circuit at turns 4 and 5. We'll be watching out for that as well. New championship means new liveries, a lot of them new to the series. And one driver that we spied, our broadcaster Cormac, has seen them as well, is Fabian Schmidberger has joined us in LMU for the first time in a long time, back on the grid in a hypercar, pretty much picking up where he left off. The German already starting out inside the top 5, looking promising here early in the championship. Jack, I'm going to throw it to you. I'm going to ask you the most important question. It's a new championship. You theorized what they may do. What would you do in this situation with a blank slate?
I mean, it's kind of difficult. I would say normally take it easy, find a lot of space on your race start, maybe lift a little bit into turn 1, you know, break into space and don't go for any silly moves. But by the nature of this circuit, you're going so quick into 1. Well, the 1 being the first braking zone, which of course turn 4, but it's a bit of a different story. You're carrying a lot more speed. Everybody's all packed up onto each other. I think same rules apply. Try to break into space, but you can't really back off in the middle of either of these first 2 corners, because if you do, there's probably going to be a pileup, a little bit of bump and tickle coming through the field.
Formation lap has started.
Easy-ish. Keep your foot down, but find as much space as you can. The flag has been waved. The formation lap begins. Of course, the shorts formation in Le Mans Ultimate. I have to say, a lot of Cadillacs in our field, Jesse Lee. You used to only see maybe 1, 2 of them. I think I saw maybe 5 or 6 in our grid. Freedom machines as far as your eye can see. The front row, of course, Porsche and BMW. It's going to be one heck of a season. You can see the LMGT3s for the first time in the back of shot. A nice healthy grid to get us going. New season, new race start. Jesse Lee, I'm going to leave it to you to take us away just a few moments. Oh, wait a minute. Is this the... Oh, no. I got confused on the circuit. I thought this was a log formation. I was about to say, when did that become a thing? A bit confused. My apologies, Jesse. But now, take us away.
Going through De La Tour, getting ready to go green on this brand new season, this brand new championship through DuPont, the final turn, and down the pitch straight. So many hypercars, so many LMGT3s, all of them hoping to get it right here on the opening lap. In the opening moments, the green flag goes down, the hypercars get released, and it's a clean getaway from the top 2, neck and neck, but that's okay with this modified turn 1 and 2. They can do it, but now single file through the first couple of turns as they all get single file, looking good in hypercars, some squabbles in the back, but the front get it right. One of the cars, the 3rd place car, off of the racetrack momentarily, but no room for the SJ&H car to make their way through. They are line astern as they go, and here come the LMGT3s doing the exact same.
That was super close stuff up at the front. But no, I think the nature of the circuit worked in their favor. Everybody's forced to get single fashion. And now they're all lined up down the Mistral for the first time. The hypercars, supreme high-speed machines compared to their GT3 counterparts. The 2 SG&H cars, Billy Octane and Fabian Schmidberger, are here side by side. BMW versus Lexus. Who has the legs as they get to the end of the straight? It looks like it's going to be the BMW. Maybe a step, maybe a late lunge, as here comes the Lexus. Too wide at the end of the straight. Immediately elbows out into lap 1. It's a new season. It's a start. Let's get it absolutely going. Super tidy stuff. So they're making way through the long right-hander. One of the trickiest corners on this racetrack, and one of the trickiest corners, I think, on any racetrack in any machinery. But tidy stuff from the start for our entire grid, Jesse.
Yeah, that was really good. Very brave at the end of the Mistral into sign, and then to Basset, and getting that pass done, making passes early can pay dividends in the long run. So that's why you see a lot of drivers, especially in the LMGT3 field, getting the toe down the Mistral. No chicanes, mind you, like there is an F1, modern F1, I should say. So getting the full toe, using that to their advantage, and this is how they've all lined up at the end of lap one. Zeno Van Drisha continues to lead. Vaselli, Urso in third. Fabian Schmidberger holds, and Billy Octane in fifth. The top five in the hypercar class, but we focus on LMGT3 for the moment as Grim Lilith continues to contest high up in the LMGT3 field as well. I don't know if we would have expected anything else. Two-car breakaway in hypercar, BMW versus Porsche. Van Drisha has it. Vaselli trying to follow and doing a pretty good job. You know, if you can hang on in sectors 1 and 3, that whole middle sector, which is just basically a straight, it kind of just keeps you in the game as long as you can keep in contact. Ursu has been unable to do that and is now falling into the clutches of the SJ&H contingent.
Yeah, it was Andrea Ursu who we saw in the first braking zone really make a dive on Fabian Schmidberger, and I thought maybe for a second it wasn't going to stick. Ended up keeping it just about on the racetrack, and I think is now holding up Fabs just a little bit. Billy's going to be happy sitting behind their teammate. I'm sure these two talking to each other, working together, saying, hey, what do we need to do here best to deal with this? Let's get at least one guy on the podium, maybe two. The incident just happened on the field. I think we may have just lost a car. No, at the moment,
I think
back of the field.
I think you're right. Oh, that's Mark Gibson. There's Mark Gibson spun, but there was also, as you could see in the back of the shot, coming through scene, there was a car that was spearing off at a humongous clip, and I don't know if there was contact that started that. There it is. It's Ted Edwards.
Oh, that's a shame. That's a tough way to start off your race, and it's actually a little bit strange. You should backing up and immediately was straightened out again, so maybe something going on the technical side for Ted Edwards that lent him up, because I mean, it's not difficult to go off there, but to spear that straight and to end up all the way in that wall takes some doing. So maybe Ted Edwards experiencing a little bit of a technical gremlin in the opening moments of the race. We return back to the two Wild and Speed Juice and Horseflow cars. Of course, the legendary pink and blue livery, Jesse, that we're just so used to seeing. Reese Wilkinson, I think, just went round a few moments ago. Look, a yellow flag set by him towards the end of the lap. I'm wondering if it's starting to come undone a little bit for drivers at the end of the Mistral Straight.
Billy Octane here thinking about overtaking his teammate. This will be a consorted effort here by the two of them, probably not wanting to hold each other up, but also not losing time. Are they going to go side by side through 1 and 2? They will not, but they do get quite close. Now, that did not look orchestrated to me. I know they're in communication with one another, but that was not a pass or a move being made. They seem to content to race each other. Schmidberger goes off of the racetrack and will surrender that position anyway. So reverse the order. Billy Octane up on the final step of the podium in third. Schmidberger down to fourth after running off of the racetrack in turns 4 and 5.
The interesting thing is, Zeno Van Drisha's behind them. He was running in second, fighting for the lead in the opening.
He was the leader.
He was, that is correct. He was the leader. And now he finds himself down in the fifth. Fabs and Billy switching spots again down the Mistral Straight. I don't know if there's any team orders going on, Jesse. It might be the ever elusive papaya rules for these two today. I think they're just going out and gonna race each other on merit, which is absolutely fair enough to do. But with Zeno in the rear view mirror of both these guys, they're probably gonna need to think, hey, if we're gonna make a move on each other, let's do it in a way that doesn't slow us down too much, because we could be at risk of losing a position or two. But whatever happened to Zeno Van Drisha, it's allowed for Martin Vaselli to really relax at the front of the field in the first 5 or so minutes. and now has a fairly healthy gap. You can see him just at the very end of the pit lane straight there through Billy Octane's windscreen. But I have to say, outside of a few incidents we've had, Jesse, an absolutely textbook start for the whole field.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting what's going on with SJ and H. There was a pass and now a repass as they reset to not, and they will continue on. Whatever happened to Zeno Vandrisha, though, we're none the wiser. You see him there in the shot, the number 94 BMW leading earlier. Something happened to them. The car doesn't look damaged, but we've already seen a couple of cars go off. You said in the pre-show, partner, that the racetrack was quite hot indeed. It's 29 degrees ambient, and I don't care where you are in Europe. That's hot for Europe. Maybe not for us East Coasters here in the U.S., but for them, we can appreciate that's quite warm, and the track being somewhere up near the 40 degrees C mark. Very hot indeed. Pass there made. Vandrisha back up to fourth place as they're trying to claw it back. Vaselli leads. Ursu in second. Fabian Schmedberger slots in to third right now. Vandrisha and Octane inside the top five. And while that's all been going on, Grim Lilith has made a move. Martin Lawrence has fallen back to third. Zach Vermack is the quickest car in LMGT3 leading the class, but has Grim Lilith all over him.
It seems like almost a little bit of they're sort of copying each other in class, because it's Grim Lilith and Martin Lawrence fighting over seconds, and it's a bit of a similar story in Hypercar, where the leaders off on their own devices 3-4 seconds up the road, and you got the podium positions, the remaining one, fighting like their lives depend on it. But you see, looking out on the rear wing briefly of Zach Vermaak, you can just barely see Grim and Martin Lawrence. So something happening to the leader in LMGT3, something happening to the leader in Hypercar, and I have to say, the Lexus back there looking a little bit nervous. You know that Martin likes a sharp setup on his race car, but it's certainly a lower downforce configuration on these cars on these tracks, so I would imagine a bit of a more nervous car, a little bit of a fake lunge. Grim Lilith going to be feeling the pressure. This is not the first time these two have crossed horns, not even the last few months, Jesse, and we know how both of them can soak up the pressure, so they might be at this for some time.
Yeah, Grim Lilith is one of those drivers that just focuses and gets the job done. Hails from Northern Ireland, of course, and Martin Lawrence is Czech. And you want to talk about the unstoppable force and the immovable object, you're looking at it here for P2 in the LMGT3 battle. These two drivers, this could go the entire distance, and you're very right, partner. Very different setups on those cars, very different cars in general, the BMW versus the Lexus, of course, but even still, Racer knows that very edgy, I would say, is Martin Lawrence's car right now. Maybe Grim Lilith's BMW a little more relaxed here, and that's probably helped them make up some of these spots with a little less edge. This is certainly a battle that could go to the very end. Not a 60-minute race, not a 60-minute championship here on Fridays for the International Sprint Series. No. These are not 80-minute races either. These are full 90-minute races on the very fringe of what can be considered a sprint race. 90 minutes, pit stops in the middle, a lot of strategy to be played out in not only this race, but the races to follow as well.
Absolutely, and speaking of things that has changed in this series from the last one, first of all, the race length, 10 minutes longer. The two other things worth note is the tire allocation is a lot more strict. I think they were allowed 3, maybe 4 sets in multi-sprint, and now 2 sets of tires for both the race and qualifying. So it doesn't leave you a whole lot of room to play around. That doesn't leave you a whole lot of room for mistakes, and I kind of like that. You really have to think through your tire strategy. As soon as you start qualifying, you're like, all right, I'm using these. Will I use them in the race? No, but I should probably leave them in good shape so in case I need them. The other thing, track limits. Oh, a lunge from Martin Lawrence in the final corner, though. That's a good place to make that kind of dive, and well judged by the driver of the Lexus. But here comes the BMW, maybe a bit more of a straight line specialist. And they're going to be side by side through turns 1 and 2. Maybe slightly, you can see a slight turn in there from Grimwood. Realized that the Lexus didn't move and decided, I'm going to back out of this before there's a massive accident. But as I was saying, track limits down from maybe 5 or 6 points, now down to 3 points. Super strict for a 90-minute race. Not a lot of room to spend any time off track, Jesse, so maybe we might be seeing some more drive-throughs, though I don't think this is going to be the track that'll grant it to us. But Qatar, in a few weeks' time, I think that might be a drive-through fest.
Yeah, I think we'll see a couple of drive-throughs just because it is Paul Ricard and it is LMU, and we're used to that. As you can see, some of the top running hypercars into the back of the LMGT3 field. Luckily for these drivers in the 4th and 5th position, they are doing this on the Mistral Straight. Could be a lot worse, certainly catching them in Sector 1, or even worse, Sector 3 would be very hard sledding, but not the case here as Zeno Vandrisha continues to make their way through, and behind them the SJ and H squadron continue to squabble amongst themselves. You said it yourself, no team orders, no quarter given between the two of those drivers. I would expect them to work together, but they certainly do look quite racy indeed. So that either tells me that there's absolutely no team orders of any kind and it's every driver for themselves, or that they are just comfortable racing each other this hard, this early in this race. We'll have to see what it all comes down to. But for those of you just joining us at home, 90-minute races here in the International Sprint Series. Pit stops aplenty coming up in a little while. Tire choice quite limited indeed, and we see with that tire graphic that some of the drivers, including Tom Watts, I noticed, and I believe Reese Wilkinson, have elected for mismatched sets of tires as well, and we'll talk a little bit more about that a little later on. Other updates is both pole sitters in both classes have had interesting sort of what we would believe to be just solo offs, mistakes that have taken them off of their pole positions. Vandrisha fell back to 5th place, has now worked their way back up to 3rd. Martin Lawrence was on the pole and fell down to 3rd, though they've also recovered a little bit, though that is the mixed positions gained and lost. We have lost a couple of cars, so that's why it appears that some of the cars are ever so slightly out of position. Got to give credit though, Jack, to the LMGT3 leader, Zach Vermack. Absolutely amazing start that's got them the lead right now in that LMGT3 class. Vaselli not bad either in the hypercar class, but looked like Vermack had to come from a lot further back to take that lead in LMGT3 early.
I think so. There's another possibility here. Known issue with Le Mans Ultimate and LMGT3s. I don't think those positions are correct at all. It's showing everybody up multiple spots in, because I actually don't think we've lost a hypercar. It didn't look like we have, but it's an issue that I've grappled with for a long time, so I know it when I see it. I don't think those are to be trusted, though. The hypercars are for sure correct. And we just saw our first bit of multi-class, our slice of multi-class life earlier on, courtesy of Billy Octane. And I have to say, the way they were making their way through the traffic was absolutely incredible. Update on the SG&H rules, courtesy of Ryan Gill, who said there's 2 rules in Speed, Juice, and Horseflow. Don't hit each other is rule number 1. Rule number 2, if you do hit each other, make it big. So clearly no team orders given between either one, but we'll see. They are side by side again down the Mistral Straight this time. I think Billy Octane's going to take it and hold on to it. There's that tire graphic again. Few drivers on those mismatched tires. My only guess is they're worried about the temperature of that front left tire. That's the one that gets worked the most on any given lap, and because it's 42 degrees on track, and I want to keep it under wraps and make sure those tires can make it the full 90 minutes. At least that's what I see with a mismatched set. Maybe we'll see some tire changes. Never really saw a lot in the previous season, or the previous iteration of our Friday champs in the 80-minute race, Jesse. They were few and far between. tire changes, and now the heat cycle has changed a little bit with the most recent update from Hamilton. And indeed, the race is a little bit longer, so more strategy to play out. I'm just excited. I'm just glad we're back underway racing again on Friday.
Yeah, I think you're right. I echo your sentiment. It's great to be back, to have the hypercars, the LMGT3s back on the racetrack. Single category championships are fun. Packing a grid full of single make, or not single make, but single category cars is fantastic. But multi-class racing, I don't know. I just feel like that's sort of my bread and butter. I think it's RCI bread and butter a little bit as well. And it's just a lot of fun to have multi-class racing. Things kind of shaking out here early at Paul Ricard. Let's take you back to the very start of the race and show you some replays of how we got here. Starting off with the LMGT3 start. Martin Lawrence was on pole. Zach Vermack would absolutely cane it on the start, fighting Martin Lawrence tooth and nail for the lead. Vermack would eventually win that fight out, as we saw Martin Lawrence lose several positions early on. In fact, Grim Lilith drove through the top 5 and took second place briefly, though those positions are now reversed with Martin Lawrence up to P2 and Grim Lilith in third place. In the hypercar class, Richard Withel and DeGore chasing each other off of the racetrack there. Will lead the, do I salute the Eagle Star
Yes.
Spangled? You absolutely have to. Ted Edwards, this was an interesting incident in Scene Corner where Ted Edwards goes off, and in the very next corner, simultaneously at the same time, looked like Gibson went off as well with spins. Unsure exactly what happened, as the two spins did not seem related. A little bit earlier than that was this. Zeno Vandrisha racing in the lead and trying to keep the lead. Spinning out in turn number 4, surrendered the lead to Vaselli, and that's how that happened quite early on. Both pole sit, Jack, having their issues.
Definitely one last moment. Reese Wilkinson getting got by Richard Withel in the deeply American machine. We're hearing Kevin Boston, the McLaren, has lost a little bit. Oh, briefly. There was, oh, it's starting to go, and it keeps going. That was a little bit close. Certainly he doesn't, oh, I thought he was going to catch it. I thought he was going to manage to straighten it out and keep going like a pro, but a pretty costly spin for Kevin.
Lewis
At
Hamilton?
least a couple of, surely. Kevin Hamilton? Something?
Kevin Hamilton with a single car spin, the grip in the tires giving up. That would be the third LMGT3 that we've seen that happen to already, and we're not 20 minutes in.
It's tricky out there. It's not an easy circuit on the best day, is Paul Ricard. I feel like it only becomes a bit more difficult when you come to the 1A layout, simply by nature. That was a huge twitch from Martin Vaselli's Porsche as he entered turn 1. I was a little bit nervous it might give up on him there, but it's a difficult circuit. Then when you come to the 1A layout and you start trimming aero off the car so you can get more benefit down the long straight on both ends of the circuit, it just means that your car is going to be a little bit more nervous. You're going to have to really nail down the setup, get everything right, and I think most cars have done so. And word from the Edwards camp, we just saw his replay of his big off, and saying his car doesn't feel particularly good, to use more broadcastable language, which is a supreme shame. We're just talking about it, the hard thing to do to set up a car well here, and the mighty Mustang stumbling just a bit in the opening round. 180 odd seconds, 3 minutes of damage. There's a tire off, and
that's a different incident.
It might be. You're absolutely right. It has to be.
That would be a second spin for Ted Edwards, and that would explain the several minutes worth of repair. They're going to have to repair the entire front left of that car, a new suspension, trailing arm, brake caliper, tire, the lot. But luckily we are in LMU, and they can fix that. And he, for all his colorful language from Ted Edwards, it looks like he's not giving up. So we'll continue on. Hot temperatures here in France, leading to some mistakes. Vasily still leads Ursu, Vandrisha, the top three in hypercar. You can see the weather, other than the temperature, pretty perfect day here in France, to be fair, but 43 degrees on the track, getting close to uncharted territory for a lot of these drivers, I'd suspect.
I think so. Everybody's feeling their way through their cars. I have to say, a ton of really high-class liveries already this season. I love looking at cars. I enjoy from time to time making them, well, attempting to make them look pretty in my spare time. And there's a lot of good ones out there. Zach Vermack in this gold and black BMW. Very, very striking. Looks good. Looks better, I think, in his mind, at the lead of this field, holding it over Martin Lorink by a handful of seconds. Enough to be reasonably comfortable, but lots of different makes in and all around this racetrack. Another one of my favorite things to see besides good-looking cars is, in fact, good mixes of manufacturers in a race. I mean, top two Porsches, but in the LMU GT3, same as well. Two BMWs in the top three, but different manufacturers throughout. Lovely work from the rest. A new name on the circuit, at least as far as I'm aware. Roland Hans, currently running inside the top five in LMU GT3 in the Porsche 911 GT3R. Popular choice for sure, but given that every time there's a new update, and there has been, of course, in case you weren't looking at the news, big update in LMU last week, perhaps, maybe 2 weeks ago. I don't know. I don't know what day it is. But the 1.4 update, two new circuits, Daytona International Speedway and WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Circuit, two incredible tracks, and a host of BOP changes. So probably we're going to see a new champion in both classes in terms of the fastest car of the bunch. It seems that the BMW and the Porsche have no answer so far in this race, though we are 24 minutes into our 90-minute race. Possible answer to why Ted Edwards ended up in pit lane. We are on board with Panagiotis Karageros, and there's Ted Edwards on the outside of the circuit. We can just see him at the bottom of the screen. Not 100% sure why he got there, but there he was again, just briefly. So not exactly an answer to our question, but we'll give it one more go. I think that's already missing a tire. So he's already gone a bit wrong.
Oh boy.
This is him attempting to get back to his pit box. So I'm wondering, based on where he is on the circuit, it was another issue at the end of the Mistral straight, another issue into Sainz corner. But he is still going at the moment, I believe, which absolutely good on him. Deutsche Rybecki, name we know very, very well, Jesse. Rolling around, currently 17th overall, 6th in class. Field's finally starting to spread out. We're finally getting a good picture on a lot of things. A, people's pace, and B, their energy. You see who's been fuel saving, who hasn't. I have to say, fairly even looking in hypercar, a bit more of a mixture in LMU GT3, but we're not even, well, we're getting just about to halfway to the pit stop. A little bit of contact, Jesse, a moment ago. This could be the answer to why Ted went wrong.
Exactly what happened here, side by side from Panagiotis and Ted Edwards. A little bit of a touch there, and that wasn't the end-all be-all. Some flashing of the lights from cars in and around them, but I think you're spot on, Jack. I think by the time they got to Seaton Corner, I think that Ted Edwards speared off into the wall, couldn't save it from the wall this time, and smacked it really hard with the front left. That wasn't what happened. I have no possible other idea, but it looked like a textbook front right, sort of a 45-degree angle deal into the wall. And why they may be sort of softer barriers in real life, in the sim, they're very much hard, unforgiving walls nonetheless. 5-second gap between the top two in hypercar, Vasily and Ursu. Drisha continuing to pound around quicker than both of them, but of course has that gap that they're attempting to make up, and just about has it done on Andre Ursu. Does Zeno Van Drisha as we ride on the back wing of Ursu. Van Drisha looming large for P2.
Definitely doing so, and this sort of speaks to maybe the pace that Zeno may have throughout this race, and sort of he made the mistake. He's ended up sort of off the lead of the race, but I don't think he's going to be so far away from it that he can't retake it. I mean, if he clears Andre Ursu pretty quickly, starts putting in good laps and has a good race strategy with him, he could be on or past Martin Vaselli by the time we get to the pit stop, which would be an absolutely incredible run. And it might be, I was thinking it might be an opportunity for
traffic.
Zeno to get by, but the traffic didn't quite go his way. Ursu was able to sneak through, and Zeno was left to slow down. That's just that beautiful thing that we love about multi-class racing, Jesse. It's something you can't really practice and you can't really prepare for. You take the hand you're dealt, and you have to make the best with it that you can, and it can mean the beginning or the end of your race. Oh, that's a big lockup on the rear for Sibo Lindhout. Another one of the many Flanders esports drivers rolling around, but that was coming into turn 4. And, well, didn't quite go to plan. That is not, in fact, not the racing line. Not the quickest driver in the world, but I know that much.
Sibo Lindhout, lucky, just like so many other drivers are today, that were at Paul Ricard, and you're able to have spins like that, and the only damage done is flat spotting the tires, which is actually quite frustrating in LMU because you get this incredible shake and vibration through the wheel, and it just never really, it calms down, but it just never really goes away until you change the tires. So anybody you've seen slide the tires like that today, just know that they are dealing with some incredible vibrations through the hands. It numbs your hands, it makes them ache, it's a whole thing, and they're going to be dealing with that, of course, until they can get the tires off of the car. More than anything, it just throws off your rhythm. You have an idea in your head, and through your fingers you know what the car should feel like, and then all of a sudden it's doing this chattering, vibrating thing that it wasn't doing previously, and it certainly can throw you off. Everybody playing in the same sandbox, some though having different problems rather than others. Did you see, by the way, Van Drisha got blocked off in the seam corner last time through, and by the time they came through the pit straight, Drisha hadn't really closed all the way down on Ursu again, and he still hasn't really. He's still about a second behind. That one momentary corner where he had to get off of it to work around lap traffic, where Ursu was able to get through cleanly, Jack, completely changed the complexion of that fight for that lap. And now Van Drisha has to make all that time up again.
Yeah, it's super, super tricky. It's a loss of momentum. He had the feel. He was really in the wing mirrors thereabouts on Andre Ursu. Now has to do it all over again. And now I think they're out of the traffic this time around. I believe that it was the race leader in LMGT3 actually that he got stuck behind. Zach Vermack was the car on the apex of the corner where Zeno had to back off, and not working in his favor. And now that they're in the clear air, it's just going to be down to pace. Maybe Van Drisha's backed off a little bit, realized that his virtual energy isn't quite in the spot he needs to be. So we get to see what it looks like. I alluded to this at the beginning of the race, what it might look like if there's GT3s and hypercars going through turns 1 and 2, and well, that's what it looks like when it goes right. Hopefully we don't see what it looks like when it goes wrong, but I'm a fan of the wing mirror cam on this Porsche. It's the battle between Mike Hook and Roland Hans, both in Porsches. Lots of Porsches, lots of BMWs, I'm noticing, Jesse, and we'll see. I think we're going to have the answer by the time we get to the end of the season of which is the fastest LMGT3 and hypercar. There was another BOP change, and we'll sort of see. But at this moment, which is great, nobody really knows, so everybody's just going to pick the car they like, I assume. That's how it goes, but it's going well for those so far. No big dramas, couple of little incidents here and there, but just a lot of good old-fashioned 30 minutes of good old-fashioned racing.
Tom Watts has gone off of the racetrack and lost the position to Reese Wilkinson. Here's a look at it after seeing, and just a huge loop in the Genesis, and saves it. But still, at least one position surrendered to Reese Wilkinson. Close call there. We saw Genesis last season struggle a little bit around Barcelona. A lot of the cars had the same sort of handling issue where they were sort of, when they would brake hard, they would outbrake themselves and spin around. That was not the issue there, I don't suspect. That just seemed like a hot track with a slick racing tire issue for Watts, but just like so many others, fortunate, no harm, no foul. The only thing surrendered, the position number 8 to Wilkinson. Watts will regain their composure and continue on. Meanwhile, the fight for P4 in LMGT3 continues on. Hoka and Hans racing for it. Equal machinery, 2 Porsches, but one seems to have a little bit more pace than the other one. Hans following, probing for weakness, trying to find any sort of space on the similarly liveried and colored car. But besides that, these two racing each other for serious positions today. And you never know, you stack top 5s in a championship like this, and you put yourself in a position to win championships. Ryan Gill did that in the Monday championship. Wasn't always the fastest car, didn't need to be, was the most consistent, and that is certainly the most important. And speaking of, our Randy Daytona in the current Monday championship, leading the championship using the same strategy, I've just realized, posting consecutive top 5s. So while this isn't for a podium spot, that's not necessarily as important as you might expect, especially when you add up points at the very end of the season.
We talk about it, I feel like every single race. Consistency is such an important thing during an entire season for sure, but even during a single race, even during a single stint, I feel like consistency is the mark of a truly great racing driver. It's that time. I know everybody's been excited about it. It's time for me to talk about fuel. I absolutely love talking fuel strategy and race strategy in general in the Law Ultimate. It really comes alive in this sim, I feel like, more than anything else. And energy graphic on your screen right now. Not a whole lot to talk about in Hypercar, if I'm honest. Everybody doing about the same job. No big standouts. And there's a lot of drivers that have been racing in that class with each other for a while. They figured out what they need to do there or thereabouts. I mean, the top 5 are within a percent or 2 of each other. The top 7 actually within a tenth of each other. Oh, I was gonna say, maybe we'll see a try it through penalty soon enough. Man. I think that's why Zeno Vandrisha backed off a bit. Pace-wise, he was getting close to a drive-through. He manages to do it. And I was about to say he was doing what he needed to do on fuel. And we'll see which corner that was. Was it going around Kevin Boss there? I think it was right there. Possibly all 4 off, unless he goes for a little bit of a ride there, but I think it was just on the exit of turn 2 there. Very minor, but because it's so high speed, there's not a lot of opportunity to slow yourself down, give up that time, and avoid that time penalty. Anyways, back to field. One thing I want to say, the one standout is Mr. Mike Hook. 22% to everybody's sort of mid-30s. Says to me, he maybe took less fuel at the start of this race in order to run it 50-50. Of course, a lighter race car, a little bit more pace, and that can work in their favor. We'll sort of have to see how it's going to play out towards the end. It's going to mean an earlier pit stop and a longer pit stop than the rest of the field, Jesse, but it sort of doesn't happen super often. Maybe Mark Gibson also on that strategy. The 2 Marks perhaps colluding on strategy, maybe.
Yeah, that'd be very interesting. There is strategy afforded them here. Several cars. I mean, you're looking at hypercars and some of the LMGT3s. You know, I've been looking at the third place car at LMGT3. Grim Lilith has on some parts of the race circuit an extra percentage than others, but now, as I said, that he's actually lost that advantage. He had 38% when everybody else had 37 or 36, but now he's actually lost the advantage he had. He's actually on pace with Vermac, and I was wondering if maybe that was strategic by Grim to give that up in third in hopes of getting it back in the pit lane. But you can certainly see, as you illustrated, Jack, some cars are not on any sort of economy, any sort of LICO run. They're going for it. Mike Hook is one of them, and Ham is the other one. And they will have to come in quite soon indeed. And they will certainly have to fill those cars to the brim with virtual energy to make it to the end from here, if my math is correct. Everybody else will be able to take, I would say, considerably less fuel. What that means in the sim, in layman terms, is just less time set in the pit lane taking fuel. You know, if you think about it in terms of your road car at home, if you fill your car up when it's only half empty, you spend less at the pump, and you also takes less time to pump that fuel. And that's exactly what happens here in LMU as well. And it's all strategy being played out. Some cars sacrificing longer pit stops for more aggression out there on the racetrack, more pace in theory. And that's what you're seeing out there as Tony Yupp, familiar spin off of Scene Corner at the top, huge slide, and will rejoin the race. That corner is the problem corner today.
Yeah, but I can tell you one thing for sure. That BMW's fine. It's a DeWalt BMW, built tough. As anybody who's a fan of DeWalt tools, I suppose, is, I don't really entirely know where I was going with that, Jesse. But no, it's become a problem corner for sure. Like I said, you're trimming off aero that you'd normally have if this was just the standard Paul Ricard layout, maybe even just the 1A V2. You'd have a little bit more aerodynamic in your favor. A little bit of a easy, simple move we've seen time and time again here tonight. That was Roland Hans overtaking Mike Hook, but he's coming back at him, keeping his nose just about in, saying this part of the racetrack is mine. They're still going to be side by side as they exit turn number 9 into turn 10. Will there be any change of the guard? Not quite. Roland Hans had the position briefly. A nice little pass repass courtesy of Mike Hook. And I think we can say there's a little bit less fuel in that Porsche because it's got that little bit more bite, a little bit more pace. Beautiful thing about fighting the same car on the racetrack, Jesse, is you can't exploit any inherent differences between the other. You got the same brakes, roughly the same aero package, and making it look real good out there in the rear engine machines.
Certainly is. These two continuing their fight, Hoka and Hans. Hypercars working their way around LMGT3. Vandrisha and Huel now. After Vandrisha got the drive-through penalty, we talked earlier about how prevalent it would be, and I think you called it right, Jack, that Vandrisha backed off, not because they wanted to, but out of necessity. They were fighting the track limit warning penalty, and they got it, and they didn't even make it to the halfway point of the race. After serving the drive-through penalty for track limit infringement, they're back out there, and Vandrisha fighting Huel, keeping 5th place. As it's deja vu, it's Groundhog Day for Zeno Vandrisha, trying to drive up through the top 5 for the second time today.
And it's gonna really put a bit of a sombering moment on his day. I mean, he did it early in the race. He had a little bit of a spin, found himself in 5th, but he really picked it back up quickly, put in some exceptionally good laps, got past the 2 SJ&H cars, and was challenging to get up to 2nd. I said maybe he has a chance to win this race. I still wouldn't count him out by any means. Anything can still happen. We're not even halfway into this race, but it's going to be a lot more difficult. It's going to be a much bigger swing he's going to need to make. Here's Adrian Fraga. Is a big moment for the Iron Dames Porsche. We haven't really seen somebody go loose into turn 1 and 2 like that, but that's a big hit in possibly a lengthy repair. Maybe Fraga's going to be in the pit lane. Actually, Reese Wilkinson has entered the pit lane a bit early. First of the hypercars. I don't know if this is a damage limitation deal for Reese, or maybe he's thinking about doing something different on strategy, but he's going to brim the tank and should be able to make the end of the race, maybe with a little bit of fuel saving, but an interesting call from the Wilkinson camp for sure.
Yes, indeed. Whistle out there, and something's happened to Mike Hoka, and we'll see exactly what it is. Remember, part of the Porsche battle, and they just lose it. They just lose it, and it's a big crash. A big crash starting the Mistral straight. They don't quite make it. Hard into the wall. Tire leaving the automobile. That will end that fight between the two Porsches, and huge damage for Mike Hoka there.
Yeah, it's going to be a retirement, and it surely was indeed. That's such a... It wasn't even a big sort of high-speed incident, as Jacob Tucky there, or excuse me, that was Tony Schaub that was spun. No, I was right the first time. Jacob Tucky getting spun and getting back going, and here comes, I think that's Billy Octane. Nothing that Jacob Tucky could do there. Andre Ursu, I think, getting it a little bit wrong on the brakes there. Just taking the Porsche for a ride, saying, this is my corner now. The Pegassi Motorsport Porsche, of course. Let's see. Oh, just isn't able to get it slowed down. Really wasn't able to do much. I feel like at that point, maybe try some amount of evasive action, but possibly a costly moment for Andre Ursu there. Maybe a penalty coming that could affect their race position, but for right now, they're all right. Maybe a bit of front-end damage. But maybe drivers already feeling a little bit of fatigue, only halfway in.
Yeah, certainly these longer races, they play on your mind. As somebody who's done these over the years, it does bother you. It messes with you, where if you're used to doing a 60-minute race, you don't realize that your brain is trained to deal with that 60-minute race. You add even just 10 minutes onto that, and then you're scrambling. It's almost like you're mentally exhausted, because you sort of your brain knows that you're used to doing 60 minutes. Now I've got to race for 10 more minutes, but I've already used all of my reserve brain power. That's what it feels like. And when you take a race like this, where you've already been going for 45 minutes, and you look up and you see that there's another 45 minutes left to go, it bothers you in a certain way. And a lot of these incidents are just, circumstantial, but you're going to see a lot of tired racing drivers. There's going to be a lot of people on this Friday night that are going to get out of the sim rig, and they're going to be like, man, why am I so much more exhausted than I normally am? It was only 30 more minutes. It's because sort of the way that you're wired, if you're used to doing 60-minute sprints and you do 90, it can become an issue. And I think right now what you're seeing is you're seeing the limit of the tires, the limit of patience, and also everyone also using a little bit of that mental, trying to set up their pit stops, and things getting a little bit sloppy here in the middle of the race.
I think another piece of that is the fact that we haven't gone Friday LMU racing in possibly the longest break there's been since the multi-sprint series started, I think possibly over a year ago at this point. My, how time flies. But it was a long break because, of course, the LP2 Sprint Series was going on a Thursday. That was taking up the time in the slot, and these drivers that are used to running multi-class, they had to wait an extra month or two before they could get back going again. So whether they've been practicing on the off-season, whether they've been running races elsewhere. This could be the first time in a little while that they've really gotten back to racing multi-class at a very high level. It's just teething issues, mistakes happening, and I'm sure as the season progresses, I think a lot of that will be dialed out. The fatigue might become less apparent, but everybody now just trying to make it to their first pit stop. The race order at this point, similar to where, just about the same to where it has been for a while, save for Zeno Vandrisha on the podium spot in Hypercar. Vaselli still leads. Andriy Ursu follows in second. Billy Octane for Speed Juice and Horseflow in third. Zach Vermack, the driver on your screen right now, leading valiantly, I believe by 11 or so seconds in LMGT3 over Martin Lorink and Grim Lilith. Everybody ticking down the lap saying, all right, I got one lap to do, and maybe I need to go in this lap now. Fuel tanks running low. Strategy about to play out. But I think leaders in both class, Jesse, are probably reasonably comfortable right now.
If you're Vaselli, you're really happy with how this has gone. You didn't actually have to pass Vandrisha, and just when Vandrisha was catching you, all of a sudden another mistake from Zeno, and now Vaselli just driving away into the proverbial sunset is Martin Vaselli in the number 19 Porsche, doing an excellent job. And if you're Vermack, kind of the same thing. You didn't have to deal with Martin Lawrence, and now there was a fight for P2, and you're just kind of off doing your own thing, and you get to focus a little bit more. You don't have to worry about the battle from behind necessarily. You focus on your pit stop, you focus on working lap traffic, or if you're in an LMGT3, you focus on being the lap traffic most of the time, making sure that you let hypercars through, but you do it in a smart and predictable way, which is always a thing that if you are in the slower class, you're taught in multi-class is don't necessarily get out of the way for the faster class, just be predictable so that they can make it around safely is sort of the deal. But nearly everybody at the end of their stint, you wonder how many tire stops we will see versus just virtual energy. I would expect to see a lot of tires here today with the heat that we've had. I can only imagine that will be the case. Shortly before we get to the pit stops here today, just want to shout out the chat. I haven't talked or said hello to the chat today, so we will now. Some familiar faces and names. A lot of people in chat cheering on Zeno, and I do believe Zach as well in the chat. Ryan Gill was in earlier to talk about the SJ&H rules as you documented Jack, and our old friend Tom Bryant in the chat complimenting us in the booth. Hello, Tom Bryant, you handsome devil, you. Ronnie's joined us as well, weighed in on that most recent incident, and I also agree that, of course, endurance racing is top, and there is the Monday champ points leader and the three-time Night Owl champion, Harry Conway. Hello to you too, sir. Pit stops on the menu and starting, at least for Mark Gibson.
Gibson's in. He's going to fill up with exactly the amount of virtual energy he thinks he needs to finish this race. I think that's going to be everybody's play. Nobody thinking
Lewis.
About he's everywhere. I feel like I can't get enough of this guy, but somehow we've been transported back to about 10 years. But no, of course, that is Kevin Boss, better known these days as Red Boss, for those who know. You know what I'm talking about. But,
And he's checking in. You better believe he's checking in too.
He's absolutely making sure he knows what's up, where he needs to go, and whether there's a Death Star needs blowing up. But I'm a bit surprised to see Kevin in LMGT3. He's been driving this McLaren every once in a while. The most recent time I joined him on circuit, he didn't have a very good time. So I'm surprised he's committed headstrong to completing the season in the McLaren. I'm glad to see it. You very rarely see McLarens in Le Mans Ultimate being ran, and it is a very, very pretty livery. For those of you who are wondering, why do these guys keep saying that's Lewis Hamilton? Well, A, it is Lewis Hamilton, duh, he's right there. But it's, of course, an homage to the old... It's the old Vodafone McLaren Formula One livery from 2000. 2008-ish to 2000 and somewhere eventually. I don't know.
You by the
exactly.
way, Jack, I'm not calling you old, but you said, "Oh, it's a livery from a decade ago," and I did the math and realized that you were off by almost an entire additional
Yeah.
decade. So, how's your back feeling?
Oh, you know, I don't think I slept on it very well now that you ask.
Oh man, me either, man. Age, it comes at you quick. Zeno Vandrisha in the pit lane this time on his own free will. Was already in pit lane, through it at least, for a drive-through penalty. Now doing their scheduled pit stop. DeGore joins them, and we suspect this driver, along with most of the others, will be in this lap or next lap as well.
I think it's going to be in this time for Martin Vaselli. Love a pink race car. Love a pink Porsche to boot. But yeah, 1% virtual energy on your screen. That's going to be into pit lane. Bit of a tricky pit entry at Paul Ricard. Very high commitment. You do not want to cut or cross the white line on entry. And that was about as picture perfect as it could possibly be. That was a superb pit entry from Martin Vaselli. Now, service for him, fuel, maybe tires. I think anybody who had any sort of spin, bearing a bit of vibration in their car, is going to want to change tires. Billy Octane is gone long and has taken the lead of the race. He's one of maybe, I think, only a few who are going to be able to get an extra lap out of their tank. So he was battling on with Fabian Schmidberger in the early part of the race and has won the strategy battle against his teammate by being able to save this extra lap. So Billy here might be looking like he might get a little bit closer to Andre Ursu on his pit stop. So maybe a bit of strategy boonery for the William Octavius. That is his legal name, by the way, for anybody who's wondering.
It'd be his legal name if it was back in the Roman times, I suspect. A couple of issues perhaps in pit lane. We'll see how this is shaking out. Andre Ursu having to be maneuvered way out of the way. Bobby and Schmidberger still sitting there. That was appeared to my eye to be a little bit longer of a stop, and it was, and it is a penalty for Fabian Schmidberger. We saw an excellently done pit entry by the leader Vaselli, not so much from Fabian Schmidberger. A Farby girl drive-through penalty.
Bit of a tough one there, and our replay will show getting the pit lane.
Early?
No, it usually just shows the delivery of the penalty when you leave, but it would be on pit entry almost every time. But kicking himself is Fabian Schmidberger. Running really well, is going to end up with a nice build to come drive through the pit lane. Zeno Vandrisha, whoa, that's a big moment for the BMW. Coming on to the Mistral straight. We saw it earlier with a Porsche LMGT3 car. This time, the pole sitter. I think he's going to park up here and retire that race car.
Goodness.
That is a bad day gone worse over and over again for Zeno Vandrisha. But I gotta say, good news for Martin Vaselli. The only driver seemingly having the pace to challenge for a victory is now officially off the board. Here comes Billy Octane on pit exit. I think that's Zach Vermaat up there as well, who's going to retake the lead of LMGT3. Jacob Tucky, another drive-through. I said that today would be a good day for drive-throughs, Jesse, but we already have 2 for track limits, and bad news.
Yeah.
Everybody on track, you still got another 34 minutes to keep it on the straight and narrow.
Yeah, you can see what happened here. Jacob Tucky was sort of in the middle of fighting or letting that Mustang go, and the track limits in LMU are stingy. It's something that I've talked about at length in private and on stream as well, that they are actually stricter than WEC limits, and if you run afoul of them, like you have in some cases a brief instant to rectify it, and in most cases, I mean, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So that's kind of what's going on, and then a track that affords you a mile of runoff room, you're going to see that a lot. And today, with the heat, the relative low grip, you're seeing drive-throughs, and again, with 33.5 minutes left to go, we've seen 2 drive-throughs for track limits, 1 for speeding in the pit lane. I think we're going to see even more by the end of the day, partner, if I'm completely honest.
I think you're absolutely right. Interesting thing to note about Tucky's penalty, he hadn't taken his pit stop yet. And here's Andre Ursu. I think we're going to see how close it was on pit exit. Look at that. Supremely close. Didn't quite see the moment where the move happened, but that's Billy Octane really on the back of Andre Ursu now that they're up to racing speed, the pair of them. The gap, 1.5 seconds. Excellent work for Billy Octane to get that time back, and now he's knows what he needs to do. He's got the carrot to chase, and is probably going to push and try to jump just 1 step higher. But like I was saying about Jacob Tucky, the interesting thing about his penalty is it came before his scheduled stop, and I'm wondering if it seems like they took the drive-through and now will go out and do another lap before actually taking fuel on board. I assume that they'll have enough fuel to make it round again, but you can elect to not take your penalty when you come down pit lane and get fuel service. Of course, you will still have to take it on another lap. So hopefully Tucky's got enough fuel to make it round, and it might be a little bit close. You can remark as well, I've just remembered, Jesse, the damage on the front of Andre Ursu's car, courtesy of the rear of Jacob Tucky's Porsche. That little bit of an oopsie into turn 4 for Ursu is going to mean that pace isn't exactly at hand. The balance of the car is going to be a little bit different, and it's moments like this that are going to really come good for Billy Octane. Had to slow down there for Ted Edwards, and the gap's now closed just a little bit more. And if those moments keep happening, oh boy, we're going to have a fight on our hands.
Well, there's one thing I know about SJ&H and Billy Octane, the Estonian driver, is that they don't really give up. Boy, whenever they're like a shark. When they smell blood in the water, they are relentless. An excellent strategy executed by Octane, and now second place within their sights, a very real possibility. I do wonder, I know that Ryan Gill not racing in this championship, but probably doing a little bit of engineering and coaching for SJ&H right now, would have likely saw the broadcast, would have likely saw the contact between Ursu and the LMG T3. Will know that Ursu has some damage as well, probably relayed that to Billy, if nothing more than motivation, like, hey, that car's got a little bit of damage, we did a better job on our pitch strategy, have at it, go get them. And that's exactly what Octane's doing, all the way up to third place again. Was briefly in third earlier in the race, you'll recall, but now is in third place in earnest, and now looking for P2 K-Boss here, or L Hamilton, as it were, being passed by Ursu on that instance. Talk about the hypercar drama. Zeno Vandrisha has joined us in chat and has had some quite harsh words for themselves. I'm going to read them, but keep in mind, this is from Zeno Vandrisha themselves, and I quote, "I am stupid, drove like an idiot today, can't believe what I did." Full quote there from Drisha, and I'm just going to say it. I don't, first of all, we appreciate you using arable language there, so that we could deliver that quote. But also, I don't agree with that, Jack. I don't think. I just think it is a bad day. There's good days in racing. There's bad days in racing. Zeno Vandrisha just had one of those days that you go, all right, we're going to throw that one out, and you try to forget it, and you move on to the next one. Everybody has bad days. I don't think that Zeno is. I think Zeno's being hard on himself. Is what I'm trying to say.
Almost certainly, and we all can get pretty hard on ourselves on a tricky day, but no, I don't think it's anything to worry too much about. And of course, there's a drop round in the championship, so for Zeno's credit, well, the race didn't technically happen, as long as we're talking about the scoreboard at the end of the season. So still,
You'd make a good life
hopes.
coach. I like this angle.
Listen, always a silver lining in everything in the world. So there's a silver lining. The race didn't actually happen statistically, so we'll just pretend that it didn't. That was Adrian Fraga sneaking up the inside of Tony Jupp there, and the McLaren just behind. Carregeros is on a different lap, so they are not fighting for that position. We come back to the fight for second in Hypercar, and like I said,
Oh, it's heating up.
Jesse, it's a couple more moments of getting stuck behind GT3s. Wrong place, wrong time is good news for Billy Octane. And the best thing is, now that he's gotten within this range, if they catch more traffic, it's unlikely that Billy won't be able to sneak through the same gap that Andre Ursu does. So it's really now down just to a straight fight, and it looks like they've got a good bit of clear circuit ahead. You alluded to it earlier on. If you can hang with in the first and third sector of a lap, and you can be right in the slipstream down the Mistral straight, there's a really good chance you can get a really good look at an overtake. You can see the gap at the bottom of your screen. It's sort of holding around between 4 and 6 tenths as they get onto the Mistral straight. Not critically close, but getting a better run onto the straight, I think, did the Cadillac. You can see the gap is dropping. They're hitting the bridge now. Still a long way to go. Under half a second now for Billy Octane in the Cadillac. He's going to get closer. I don't think it's going to be close enough this time, but it is enough, Jesse, I think, for Andre Ursu to maybe look in his mirrors. He missed the apex there. I think he might be looking a little bit behind. Might be getting put under a little bit of pressure. This is all playing into the hands of the Cadillac.
Oh, a little bit of lap traffic there from the LMGT3. That's going to allow Billy Octane to close back in. I think Andre Ursu is actually using the opposite technique of what I was talking about, where if you maybe have a little bit of a pace discrepancy and you're the trailing car, you can use the Mistral straight to keep yourself in it. I think it's having the opposite effect for Ursu. Ursu is using the Mistral straight to stay ahead of Billy Octane, who's clearly quicker in sectors 1 and 3, but there's drama for P3 or 4. P3 it is in LMGT3. Grim Lilith from P3, a drive-through penalty for, you guessed it, track limits.
Oh, such a shame, man. It's going to be something that is really going to wreak havoc on this championship. And I think a lot of drivers may be sort of thinking, why do we have such stringent track limits? And I sort of like it. Granted, I'm not out there driving, so I have a little bit of a different view, but it changes the complexion of how you have to drive the full 90 minutes. You can't just go full headstrong, balls to the wall for the whole race. I mean, you sort of got to play it a little bit smart, and you got to play within the rules. And the rules are stay between the white lines. Yes, they can be very, very mean sometimes, the track limits, but it's all sort of fair in that, I hate to say it, Jesse, and I know all racing drivers, including you and me, hate to hear it, if you never drive off the track, it's never a problem.
Yeah, it's very easy for us to sit up here in the air-conditioned box and say that. It's very different when we're in the race car and somebody tells us that and we shout expletives at them. A very different perspective, but we get both sides of it. But Grim will wonder about this one. The question is, how far back does Grim Love come out? Remember, it doesn't have to stop the 115 BMW. It just has to trundle down pit lane at 60 or maybe 50 kph, depending on what the pit limit actually is. This might be where he gets the track limits. I don't know. I didn't quite see enough there. Is it there, maybe, where he drove just
I think it was
lazy?
Turn 1. I think it was turn 1. I saw the brake lights come on in hopes of maybe
oh dear,
ridding the penalty, but the brake lights weren't off. It was still enough of a point to be a drive-through. So now that they have cleared it, I think they dropped down maybe a position or two. Here's Ted Edwards. Oh, it's not a good day. Not a good day.
Lost in the wake.
Yep.
Oh, off of the racetrack. That was Fabs, I believe.
I think so. Scary place to end up. But I think Fabian Schmidberger came back on the circuit, I assume, and kept moving on. But the two SJ&H drivers sort of nearing fights of their own. Billy, of course, is already locked in against Andre Ursu, but Fabian Schmidberger now closing in on Raphael Huel. That gap just under, maybe just over 4 seconds. So that could be one to look for towards the end of this race. And hour and 10 in, there or thereabouts, Jesse. Absolutely glorious racing all the way through. A little bit of drama considering neither of our pole sitters are currently leading this race in either class. In fact, the pole sitter from Hypercar is no longer in this race. So, you know, it's silly to make assumptions about how a championship's going to look in the first round. You never win a championship in race one, but I think the assumption I can make is it's going to be a damn good season.
Yeah, it's been unpredictable here. We've seen a lot of good racing and some high drama and squabbling between positions in the high placing order. So if this is anything to go by, and I suspect it might be, this is going to be a hotly contested season. We just came off of the Monday and Thursday championships, starting anew here in the week or so, and I got to tell you that they were very interesting. No real single driver in any of those categories took the bull by the horns. There was no domination, and I suspect we're going to line up for some of that here in the International Sprint Series as well, as even the pole sitters have found it difficult today, and I suspect that's a trend that will continue. Tom Watts in the Genesis leads Michael DeGore. This is for 7th place. I mentioned earlier that all positions are important. Any extra points that you can get today may ultimately be important. And I just spoke about the championships that we were running on Monday and Thursday that just wrapped up, starting new ones, of course, but they were all won with consistency, Jack, more than just outright dominating. And that's the point I'm making. Consistency wins championships. Who can be the most consistent? Huge wiggle right there from Tom Watts. Didn't see DeGore go through. Probably right on his bumper. If we flip that camera around and there's a humongous Toyota Evo in our grill. There isn't actually. What on earth has happened here?
I think it was Michael DeGore coming into turn one, caught up to Zach Vermaak and just wasn't able to get by cleanly and just kind of sat back and waited. So that wiggle didn't end up costing Tom Watts anything at all. And, you know, I haven't said it yet. I've just realized multi-class giveth and multi-class taketh away. It's a tale as old as time. It's my favorite. It's the one and only rule of multi-class racing. It's the one and only constant on any given afternoon. But yeah, the two.
You know what I like to say?
Many things, but what in this specific moment do you like to say?
Well, personally, Jack, I like to say that Green Man Gaming only giveth. They giveth deals, and if you're looking for a deal right now on a large variety and selection of games, you can use the link in our description and check out all their deals. I think you can get Balatro for a little bit of a discount right now, 13 quid. You can get Balatro if you haven't played it. We'll warn you about that game. Balatro, very addictive card game. It's like a roguelike card game. It's crazy. It's hard to explain, but it is addictive. So is getting drive-through penalties, as it would turn out, Jack.
Really close for Fabs. I was maybe thinking that he might be able to get away with it, but if you don't come off the throttle and you get a warning, you're getting those points every time. And going down the Mistral straight, maybe he thought, I can sort of take it. Oh, the fight's reignited a little bit. Sir Lewis Hamilton getting in the way briefly between Tom Watts.
Oh, that's right. He is knighted.
Michael
You're right.
DeGore. He is indeed. Unfortunately, I don't think Kevin Boss is just yet. On the straight, it looks like the Toyota's got a little bit more shove than the Genesis, a lot more at the very end of the straight. He's not able to slot in, but man, that was brave. A little bit of a wiggle, a little bit of a wobble. for the TR010, but into turn 9 is muscling through on the top. Watson, it's a huge slide on the exit, just asking too much from the rear of that hypercar. Man, that was looking really good, really tidy, but just not quite able to hang on. Is Michael DeGore. My, that was close. You can see just touching that curb, it's a lot of camber. Throws the car into a spin and barely able to avoid both the BMW and, in fact, the Genesis of Tom Watson. A rule, fun fact, ladies and gentlemen, hold your brakes when you spin, because it's a bit unpredictable when your car starts rolling backwards like that. Fortunately, no one caught a foul, Jesse, but able to hang on. Somehow, some way, and I think I know how, it's Martin Lawrence, has managed to get up and inside a second for the lead of LMGT3. He's been chipping away, but I thought there was a huge margin to climb. Martin Lawrence in the Lexus right on the back of Zach Vermack and the BMW for the lead in the final few moments.
I know how he's done it. Martin Lawrence just refused to be denied the Czech driver on the back of Zach Vermack, and the fight for the win in LMGT3 is on. It's all or nothing here for Martin Lawrence, and he probably also had help from a Coach Dave setup. Coach Dave setups for all occasions in LMU and other sims as well. Go to CoachDaveDelta.com, follow our link, get yourself a setup or a setup package today. Martin Lawrence right on the back of Vermack, had to back off a little bit before they come down the Mistral straight, as the BMW streaks away from the Lexus for now. But I think what you're going to see here as we enter sector number 3 is the roles reverse as we go through Basset and into Galabon and the rest of sector 3. A wiggle there from the BMW. Martin Lawrence will see that. He'll know that that's a little bit of a weakness. Look at the hands of Martin Lawrence. There's no counter steer until right there, as he has to get off of the brakes at a awkwardly loaded moment and give up all that time. But before that, the hands not busy. Very sure for Martin Lawrence. Look at the grip difference. Look at the line difference as Martin Lawrence eats up Zach Vermack.
He's going full maximum attack here. He's taking all the line and all the racetrack that he can possibly gather, sort of trading mid-corner speed for maybe a little bit of exit there towards the end of the lap, just getting all over the back. I think he's just trying to do his bid to apply pressure, force a mistake from the driver who has yet to make one here tonight. The gap stays inside, sort of 0.3 of a second. I think we might be looking for a change of the lead through the twisty stuff. Not a whole lot between them. In fact, they're right where they were. Maybe Martin Lawrence getting a little bit of a better run there out of turn number 6, and here they come through. That's inside of 0.3 for Martin Lawrence. The gap, the bottom right of your picture, and I think it's going to get real close at the end of the
BMW have the legs on the Lexus?
Oh my goodness, this is not ACC, I can tell you that, Jesse
Yeah, that's
Lee.
for sure.
The BMW currently outrunning the Lexus with the benefit of slipstream, without the benefit of slipstream, doing a little bit of tactical weaving to, take themselves out of it. But my, Martin Lawrence just learned an important lesson, and now Zach Vermack is learning one as well. Not to rest on your laurels. He thought he had it covered off. What a move from Martin Lawrence. We need a little bit of contact there. Zach Vermack a little bit unhappy about it. A little bit of a rub. Couldn't tell if they were making constant contact through the corner with our camera view there. Maybe something to look at. But that was incredible work from Czech Jesus.
Yeah, we call him Czech Jesus. And while that was going on, this huge incident from Michael DeGore in the 781 Toyota spins off into Narnia. He was halfway to wine country. Maybe the Champagne region of France, perhaps. is how far that car spun off of the racetrack. That'll do the tires no good, but luckily didn't make it to the barriers, lost a ton of time. Schmidberger, Tom Watts in front of DeGore with Wilkinson behind them. DeGore settles in the 8th place position, but Martin Lawrence back into the lead for the first time since the start of the race, qualified on pole and lost it on the opening lap to Zach Vermack, and now the long road back has been completed. Martin Lawrence back to the lead here at Paul Ricard in the opening round in the Lexus. Now he's got to hang on for 13 more minutes because Vermack, remember, we just learned that BMW is quicker in a straight line than the Lexus, and he's still right there.
He's going to be there for, I think, the remainder of this race, but I was in a bit of amazement how much the BMW was able to pull down that straight, and I think I know why. Martin Lawrence, I don't think, has set that car up for anything other than corner pounding prowess. Here's Michael DeGore again. Is there a little bit of contact with Tony Jupp? Maybe just a tiny bit, but nothing to write home about, I think, between Hypercar and LM GT3. Bit of a lifeline here maybe for Martin Lawrence. There's Raphael Huell in the Penske Porsche Hypercar, getting in between them, setting a wedge and opening that gap a little bit. I say lifeline. I don't know if Martin Lawrence really needed it, but now he has it. And because that Lexus seems to be quicker in the corners, Jesse, I think that unless Zach Vermack can put together an absolutely mega Sector 1, this one might start to slip away from him.
I'll tell you one thing, not that I do it very often, but when you get the pole position and you start first and then you immediately go backwards in the race, it does something to you. You don't like that. That's a horrible feeling. You feel horrible because you're like, well, wait a minute. 5 seconds ago, I was the fastest car on the racetrack. Now I've made one mistake and I'm in 5th place or whatever, and you got to get all those positions back. And if you don't, you feel like the biggest heel in the entirety of sim racing, I promise you. But the second you retake that lead, it's like a weight is lifted off your chest. But okay, I've made up for the mistake. It's okay. Martin Lawrence has just had the vice released off of his chest, and every lap where he looks up in that virtual mirror and he sees Vermack's BMW getting just a little bit smaller as those minutes tick down, he gets a little more confident. He breathes a little more lighter every single time. Huge slide that time as well in the background, and a slide here as well for Richard Whittle. We haven't talked about Richard Whittle a lot today, probably for good reason. He's just been steady as she goes, except for this moment. That looked almost like a locking problem to me.
I think it might have been. A little bit of dab of brakes and a little bit around she goes. Maybe he felt the need to apply a little bit of brakes coming out, but it was, yeah, I think a little bit of that. But
can we talk about the livery? Can we talk about the livery?
I would love to. That is the most freedom I think I've seen a freedom machine.
Isn't Richard Whittle British?
Yes.
Okay,
almost
so Richard
certainly.
Whittle, a British racing driver, accomplished racing driver in RCI, mind you, has an American flag front of the car, a bald eagle middle of the car, and some Jeff Gordon style flames on the back of the car. Flaming Eagle, oh, that would explain it. Flaming Eagle Racing, indeed. Custom liveries and LMU, new ones for us in this series, and certainly probably the most striking is Richard Whittle's car. But for the SJ&H crowd, don't think I haven't noticed what you've done to your cars this season either. I know you're a livery artist, and I know what he did to that car.
He's known to do many things, and I'm sure we'll get more and more adjustments, tweaks maybe throughout the season, or just more time spent in the sun with us talking about it. And on to more liveries. Possibly my favorite livery in the WEC in terms of LMGT3 on Adrian Fraga's Porsche. Of course, the Iron Dames machine, who are not currently racing in the WEC, and it makes me shed a tear.
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean,
Every race.
you know, it's just fun to team. Is all I gotta say.
Somebody, please give them just a boatload of money, because it does cost a boatload.
You want to win races on the Dames? It's simple math.
Yeah, very accomplished team in the WEC in the GTE era. A couple of race wins, I think, but overall, just such an awesome story, such an awesome team, such great talent.
All to Gorgon,
of course. And I think, yeah, just a bit of a moment there. I think, though, the Dames might get trampled down the straights. I just don't think those rear tires are anything close to a round object anymore for Michael DeGore. He's gone around a fair few number of times. That might be the quickest off he's had. And he's testing the limits of the Michelins. Let's just say that. Oh, another moment, a little bit of rubbing into the side of Ted Edwards, and I think Ted there a bit unhappy with that, not giving him room on the exit. Michael DeGore not making friends with with the people who engineer the Michelin tires, nor the LMGT3 field. But I do believe Tony Jupp did overtake Adrian Fraga while we were away. Martin Vaselli, a tale as old as about 1 hour and 23 minutes, and still leading the race. Here's that overtake that we missed a moment ago. Tony Jupp in the BMW, the DeWalt BMW. Gosh, that thing's quick in a straight line. I think we're back to the era of missile-like BMWs in LMU.
It's a new era. Yeah, we went through an interesting period where we just about figured out LMU's BOP and what cars were good and everything, and then the USA DLC #1 came out. There was huge changes, like you said earlier in the show, Jack, and now everybody's resetting basically to square one with the BOP, the improvements, the fixes. So like you said, a lot of people out there trying cars that maybe they wouldn't have done just a few weeks ago, and also people that have returned in cars that they previously liked, or maybe learning new things about the cars, the tires, the setups of them, as well as we continue to go around. 6 minutes left in the race. Vaselli continues to lead Ursu. Billy Octane has been unable to make the pass for P2, but sits in third. Huell and Richard Whittle, the top five in hypercar. Martin Lawrence has retaken the lead in LMGT3 after spending the entire race clambering back through the top five in that category. Zach Vermack now P2, Hans in third, Lilith after the drive-through sits fourth, Rybecki completes your top five. And before we finish tonight, we just want to say thank you to everyone out there for watching and commenting, liking, and subscribing. Of course, we'll be back live on Monday for continuing coverage of the Monday UTE Championship. And it's gone from bad to worse for Zach Vermack, a drive-through penalty for track limits. This is how it happened, Jack.
See if it's fairly major. Oh, he's just over. He's just over the white line. It's so minor. But he absolutely draw no quarter. One of the changes that I did not mention about the 1.4 update is they did change some of the logic on how track limits were given. Nobody knows exactly what they did. The consensus is they are a lot more, or at least a little more stringent. So it's not an ideal time to be on a short lease in terms of track limits, and everybody's learning that. The hope is anybody that got a drive-through today will not be receiving a drive-through for the rest of the season, because they know it's going to be a weight on their mind that they're not going to want to make that same mistake again. The fight for 9th in LMGT3 has now become a three-way fight, as Tony Jupp leads, Adrian Fraga leads Jacob Tucky in the final few moments. And as we're saying thank yous officially, I think we'd be remiss without mentioning one of our other wonderful partners, Moser Racing. If you're looking for high-quality direct drive hardware that doesn't break the bank, Moser Racing is your go-to. I can attest to their quality personally. I use their stuff for my rig at home. It's fantastic. It works. It does everything it says on the tin, and it doesn't cost you an arm and a leg. And one final thank you to our friends over at Motorsport UK for having us on their list of recommended esports communities. And thank you to all of our wonderful partners for helping us keep the lights on here on RCI. A few more laps to go. A little bit of drama in this three-way fight. A bump from Fraga to Jump. And I think Tucky here is probably hoping for some kind of incident, some might call it a crash, between the two cars ahead of him. Maybe not having the pace to quite match them, but as they've been fighting, has been getting closer. Ooh, a stop-and-go 10 for Carregueros in the McLaren. I think they took an early pit stop in the race. Maybe needed to go for a splash and dash. But that is excessive speeding into the pit lane. No, maybe they were serving a drive-through. Because, no, that's already as they pulled out of their box after refueling. My apologies, but yeah, on entry, that is excessive speeding into pit lane. We don't know how much excessive speeding, as we learned last week, Jesse Lee. You could go about 200-odd kilometers an hour into pit lane. It's only a stop-and-go 10, as Joe Dauber showed us what it looked like to drive an LMP2 car flat out through the Imola pit lane.
Yeah, I was happy to show some other people that footage, and everyone kind of had the same reaction, like, huh, good to know, because nobody really does that. Joe Dauber was essentially admitting defeat and just drove through the pit lane. Admittedly said he was just curious to see what would happen, because if you did that in other sims, you'd be instantly DQ'd. In LMU, apparently you get a stop and go. But literally everybody that races LMU had the same reaction you and I had. Be like, huh, I guess that's what happens. So put that in the memory bank for next time. But yes, more than a few kilometers, you get a stop and go, and that's exactly what occurred there. Final minute and a half of the race, and it's another drive-through. They're coming through very quickly now. Ultra Becky, track limits, infringement, drive-through penalty. I will say for Vermac, I think they had something like a 50-second lead over Hans. So Vermac will actually be able to serve their drive-through and not lose a position, at least if my math is correct. We'll see if Rybecki can hang on to their spot as well. But we continue to watch the fight for 9th place. Jump has it. There's Tucky, Fraga, everybody fighting over these positions, and here comes Tucky on Fraga. There's going to be contact. That was a little bit clumsy, certainly, as Fraga gets around. At least that's what, oh no, excuse me, that wasn't Fraga, that was another Porsche.
It was Fraga getting past Tucky. Tucky actually made the move in the final corner, and they swapped, and then they've repassed. But yeah, that was a little bit clumsy from Adrian Fraga. Maybe a little bit frustrated. Knew, this is my very last lap. This is my very last chance to overtake. Is that Ham there in the 79 Porsche on a different lap, just overtaking Jacob Tucky. But Tucky maybe not too pleased about that maneuver. Maybe that will be a stewarding decision later on, and possibly has another one if they would like to be angry at Adrian Ursu, of course, earlier on. The hypercar on LMGT3 violence ensued, but I think, oh, it's a mistake from Adrian Fraga. I was going to say, I think Tucky's going to have to be relegated to finish here, but no, he's jumped back inside the top 10 in the very final few moments. And, that's Fraga going into pit lane there. Not having enough fuel.
Did Fraga short fill the car? I don't think Fraga had enough for one more lap. Did the oldest trick in the book, where you set your fuel to the end of your race, not +1. And pit lap to put one more lap of fuel in. That releases Jacob Tucky to their own devices, and that will end that fight. Fraga having to give in the final moments. We thought some of the pit stops were aggressive. Turns out they were.
Yeah, it's a bit of miscalculation, but the winner of the race is the one who decides how many laps it is, and that was the final lap. In the final moment, before Martin Vaselli claims victory in round one. Nobody could touch that Porsche today, and he did it with little to no issue, taking the lead from the pole sitter and taking victory after 90 minutes. Andre Ursu fending off Billy Octane to take second place. Octane's gonna have to take third, maybe not quite having the fuel to push, but a podium for the SJ&H driver is absolutely something to take home with a smile. The next of our hypercar finishers, of course, is Raphael Huell, who I think has been doing a little bit of work off season. Struggled in the hypercars for a little while many moons ago in previous seasons, but this time around, fourth place to start off his championship run is an absolute stellar position to be in. What can we say, though, Jesse Lee, about Martin Lorenk? Loses the lead of the race in the first few moments, has to crawl back. Took him an hour and change to do it, but he has won the race over Zach Vermaak in round one. Boy, do we have a treat on tonight.
Yeah, this was a fantastic race. There were comers and goers. There was a mix of strategy as well that definitely played into the hands. If you are Billy Octane, able to use that strategy to get close as everybody coming to the line. Zach Vermaak did serve their penalty, by the way, and my math was correct for the first time in my life. Didn't lose P2, all told, comes home second place. Vermaak would have liked to have won the race, but there's no shame in finishing second to Czech Jesus, that's for sure. And Hans comes home third in the category. The final finishers coming to the line. The Iron Dames liveried car ends the race and round number one. Vaselli and Lawrence, your two winners in Hypercar and LMG T3 respectively. And what a round one it was. We didn't quite know what we were going to get today. We got some great racing and even better strategy, high drama as well. Results confirmed. Martin Vaselli wins it over Andre Ursu. Billy Octane, your podium. Huell, Whittle, the top five. Schmedberger, Watts, Wilkinson, DeGore, Lindhout, the top 10 in Hypercar. Vandrisha did not finish the race, started on pole, finished in the garage. Zito will be back with a vengeance in 1 week's time. You can guarantee it. Jack, take us away for LMGT3.
Of course, results after 90 minutes in LMGT3. Martin Lorenk, or as we know him, Czech Jesus, putting in the Lord's work today, running a great race to take victory over Zach Vermaak in P2. Roland Hans, your final podium finisher. Grim Lilith, as a result of that drive-through penalty, not getting to be up on the podium here tonight. Mark Gibson finishes fifth. Wojciech Rybecki in sixth. Mark Ham in seventh. Kevin Boss in eighth. Tony Jupp in ninth. And Jacob Tucky, by the skin of his teeth and by the nature of putting enough fuel in his race car, finishes inside the top 10. Adrian Fraga finishes 11th. Ted Edwards, after a really long day, finishes in 12th, just ahead of Panagiotis Karageros in 13th, with Mike Hook and Matt Malcolm, I believe, not showing up. And I believe that makes a 100% finishing rate for LMGT3s. That might not be the first time we've ever had that, Jesse Lee. I'm being corrected that Hook was actually in the race and did DNF. I was about to give them props, saying this is the first time in a very long time that we've had an 100% finish in LMGT3. Not so this time. They'll have to wait at least a week's time. At the end of the day, Jesse Lee, that was a stellar way to start a season. A really good race, fights up at the front, in LMGT3, fights all over the podium in both classes. Anything you wanted, we probably were delivered here today.
Can't wait for round number 2. We're going to be at a brand new track for LMU, but everybody already knows it. It is the fearsome Laguna Seca. For what it lacks in length, it more than makes up for in difficulty and technical appeal. It is a racetrack that chews you up and spits you out. And I'm not just talking about the corkscrew. Every corner, a unique difficulty, a unique sort of pattern, and I've driven it, and I gotta say, it is way different in a hypercar versus anything else. And we're gonna pack hypercars and LMGT3, some 30 odd cars on the same bull ring. It's gonna be amazing. Not only are the drivers dealing with new BOP and changes to the sim in the current update, they're also going to be dealing with a brand new track and the smallest track on the schedule. Like, subscribe, hit the bell so you'll know when we go live next week for round number 2 of the International Sprint Series live from Laguna Seca. But you won't have to wait an entire week for more LMU racing action. We'll be back live on Monday for continuing coverage of the GTE Racing Series on Monday. 2 rounds in, and we're all none the wiser. The points are all over the place. Drivers finishing out of position, drivers having stellar finishes when they need them. Basically, it's anybody's championship after 2 rounds. They'll be live from Spa-Francorchamps on Monday in the GTE category. You can check out these races and more by going to our page on SimGrid. Worth mentioning, if you are looking to sign up for GTE on Monday, all that content that we race in that championship is base content. You buy LMU, you have everything you need to race in that championship. Jack, final words here from Spa.
I'm so excited for this entire season, both seasons, in fact. The GTE Masters has been absolutely electric to watch. I'm really excited to be back in the booth next week, and I'm also excited to not be on holiday while commentating these races. But I love it so much that I'm willing to spend my vacation with you guys. It's an absolute pleasure. I'm so excited for Laguna Seca next week.
Oh,
multi-class is super tricky. It's going to ask a lot of drivers. It's going to ask a lot of working together. It's going to be so much fun, and it was an absolute pleasure to spend some of my evening with you all, as it is every week, Jesse. So I think it's just I'm just ready to enjoy what we have in store.
Yes, indeed. Special shout out to Circuit Paul Ricard here in France for providing another fantastic race on its 1A layout. We'll be back live next Friday for racing action from Laguna Seca. We'll be back on Monday for GTE action at Spa-Francorchamps. I've been Jesse Lee, joined by Jack Mays with Cormac Malloy behind the cameras as always. Thank you so very much for watching, for commenting, liking, subscribing, for doing all the things. Thank you so much to the drivers for driving and all the people on the back end that help us put on this production every week as well. Thank you so much for being with us. We'll see you on Monday and then back again here for more international racing on Friday. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, have a good night.
You ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Get behind the wheel, let's go. Grip the road, feel the flow. Thunder roaring, steel alive. Live this dream and drive. Tires burning with gasoline. Push the limits, chasing green. One shot, don't slow. Go on, we'll take control. Engines scream alive tonight. Blazing past the red line. Outrun the night, won't lose this fight. Follow the road, red line for show. We're chasing taillights, don't let go. Under the stars, we'll go so far. This is who we are. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. We're chasing taillights. now, the hours fly by. Sweat and gears, hearts in sync. On the edge, on the brink. Clock ticks down, stakes are high. One mistake, we kiss us goodbye. Don't slow down, we're not done. Finish line for the strong ones. Engines scream alive tonight. Blazing past the red line. Outrun the night, won't lose this fight. Follow the road, red line for show. We're chasing taillights, don't let go. Under the stars, we'll go so far. This is who we are. Chasing taillights. We're chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. We're chasing taillights. Feel the rush, see the goal. Every second, take control. The world blurs, time won't wait. We rise, we fight, we accelerate. 3, 2, 1, go. Follow the road, red line for show. We're chasing taillights, don't let go. Under the stars, we'll go so far. This is who we are. Chasing taillights. We're chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. We're chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. We're chasing taillights. We're always chasing taillights.